What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 101 series. We got another episode with you guys today. Today we're talking about web content creating. I got my man, the one and only, Jeremy Branch, who's on the show today. Jeremy, let everybody know who you are and what it is that you do.
What's up, everybody? Malcolm, thanks for having me, my friend. I'm looking forward to talking about this stuff. We do a podcast together called Phantom Talk every Wednesday, and actually we just now got finished recording an episode, and your Phantoms Anonymous channel on the YouTube channel is blowing up, so that's great. But yeah, I am a content creator, like you had alluded to. Back in 2014, I want to say it was about January, about the beginning of the year, I decided that I kind of wanted to get into video production, audio editing, and audio engineering and things like that. So I started Be Terrible Productions, which honestly was kind of an ironic name. I wanted it to be something that was catchy, something that people had to do a double take at. But the reason why the Productions was in there is just to kind of tie it in and associate it with movies and with film, because that's what I'm super passionate about. I started watching movies obviously as a little kid, but in 8th grade I had an art, it was an advanced art class, and our teacher, I'll never forget, her name was Miss Chinry, and she showed us Alien, the original Alien film, and she showed us Jaws in class, and we kind of broke it down on a technical level. And ever since then, it affected the way that I watched movies, and I started to kind of pay attention to the craft and everything that went into it. So I just wanted an outlet to talk about that kind of stuff. So I started doing daily video blogs. I started making like small, almost slideshow style videos where I would talk about different movie news that was coming out. I experimented with a lot of different things, but I got into a weekly podcast called The Weekly Pop, where we would have a panel and we would discuss movie news. We'd play trivia and a lot of just really fun stuff. Got to meet a bunch of great people, had a bunch of good collaborations with people in the area, and that's kind of how me and you met, was that the podcast scene. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. And then more recently, I've kind of started delving more into specifically creating web content. Like you and I had kind of discussed a couple of weeks ago, I'm working on a series right now called Movie Monsters, where I go in and kind of break down different iconic creatures, monsters that come up in popular fiction all the time. It's not necessarily just horror movies. We're going to talk about kaiju, the big giant monsters. We're going to talk about aliens and just all sorts of different things. So that's been a fun project, but man, it's been overwhelming. It's been a lot of time doing the writing ahead of time, getting the graphics put together, getting the video downloaded, and then grabbing the clips that I need out of that. So it's been a pretty major undertaking. They're all like 10-minute videos, and I swear, I want to say that like the first episode I did was probably 20 hours, 25 hours worth of labor, like it would have been a whole entire day, day and night. But I broke it up a little bit, obviously. So it's just a lot, but it's fun, and I feel like it's something that gives me an opportunity to get more into the production side of things, more back to the roots of the idea of making my own content in addition to covering all the things that I love. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm just somebody who loves movies, somebody that likes to be able to talk movies, and then somebody who just loves being able to sit down and learn some marketable skills on Photoshop and Premiere and all of those kind of things.
What would you say for those young content creators? Because the 101 series is basically a platform to be able to plug what these different people that we're going to be talking to are doing, but it's also an opportunity to teach those who are wanting to do things based on what the topic is. So what advice would you give for a up-and-coming content creator, no matter what platform they're using, be it podcasting, video making, audio editing? You know, what information would you have for them?
First and foremost, it's kind of cliche, but find your voice. I think that's the most important thing. And when I say find your voice, we all have influences. We all have people that we look up to and respect. And, you know, most of those, we look at the people who have success and we want to aspire to do what they do. But in aspiring to do that, you got to understand, and, you know, obviously to the listeners, you got to understand that you can't do what they do. You can only do what you do. And you can do what you do so well that you can rise to the very tippy top of the totem pole, but you can't necessarily do that following somebody else's path. And I think that's one of the big things that YouTubers kind of perpetuate, is that you have to do step A, you have to do step B, you have to do step C. And there's a lot of people out there that are following that formula. So the first thing I say is find your voice. That's what's important. Find your dialogue. Find your vocabulary. Bring your own personality into the equation, because that's all any of us have. There's no new ideas under the sun. There's nothing that nobody else has done before. So just bring yourself out of it. You know, let yourself shine through. So that's the most important thing. And then also do it because you love it. Do it because you love it, because if you're doing it as a plan to do it as a career, if you're doing it because you want your 15 minutes of fame, if you're doing it because you want 1 million views, that's probably not the right reason to do it, because you'll drive yourself crazy watching those analytics, feeling like you're falling short of the goals of the people. Like, I'm not getting 4 million views a review like Jeremy Johns is. I must not be doing something right, you know, and that's really not the case. Do it because you love it. Bring yourself into the equation, and then just you got to stay consistent. I'm sure Malcolm could talk to you guys a ton about that, because, I mean, your numbers are just, you know, growing every single day, every single minute, and I think that a key to that is communication with your fan base, as well as people have come to expect that you're going to have content out on a regular basis. If you're one of these YouTubers that posts very infrequently, you know, media and information moves so fast these days that if you don't come out with a video for 2 weeks, you're almost irrelevant already, you know? So it's just like, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. And then, you know, a little bit further down the list is gear and production and making sure you got the software. You got to have a computer, you know, all of the actual hardware that goes into it. However, there's nothing wrong with using a smartphone. You know, you've got a great camera on your smartphone. You've got a good microphone on your smartphone, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to produce some sort of web content. I see people do reaction videos where they're literally watching the reaction through their phone, and that's okay, you know, because what people want is to vicariously experience what it's like to hang out with you on a personal level.
That's true. Like you touched on consistency. Consistency is key. If you're going to be, it gets a lot into YouTube creating for content. If you're going to do content for YouTube, you have to be consistent. You cannot go like Jeremy just told you guys. You cannot go 2 weeks without a video. You will fall off. Don't get upset when you see a video only at 10 views. 10 people watched it. So you have to be grateful for where you are. I get excited when get excited when I see 50 and 60 videos on a video that I did that I only thought would get 10.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, I've done, for my YouTube creation, I've done videos when I was tired. I was like, okay, I got to record this video. I know I got to get this out for my own mental deadline. When I get in front of the camera, you thought I had all the energy in the world. As soon as that camera stops, I'm back to how I was feeling, because, you know,
yeah.
But it has to be done. If you don't do it, they're not going to watch it. Something has to be put out there. for people to see, for people to notice. Like that consistency is a word that I live by. It's advice that both Jeremy and my friend Kevin and my man Whitney Moore gave me when I started out with my own channel. They said, be consistent. Do not stop. And, I guess that's the word of the day, consistency. When it comes to creating content, be consistent. And like Jeremy said, don't feel bad that you don't have a state-of-the-art camera. I don't have a state-of-the-art camera. I use my phone.
Yeah,
my phone has a very good camera. And coming up soon, I'm going to do my own one-on-one series on myself. So you guys will be able to see some behind the scenes of me doing what I do with how I do it. And you'll be able to really see how I churn out videos, how I put stuff out, how I operate. So, consistency is the key. Now, Jeremy, I know you do a lot of different things. And I know one of the things you said was find your voice. So for you, what do you feel like is the best way to get started? Do you feel like it's good to get started with podcasting? Do you feel like it's good to get started with creating YouTube content? What do you think is I guess my question is, when you say find your voice, and for the person who may not catch that or grab that, what is your take on that?
It's a great question, and it's a little, I don't want to say existential, it's a little bit abstract, because everybody talks. Everybody has their own voice. Obviously, most people aren't trying to modulate or change the actual pitch or intonation of their voice. It's just, what can you bring into this scene that separates you from the pack? And I honestly feel like the best way to start is the least personal way to start, and that is just, and I don't want to say least personal. Let me get around to where I'm going with that. But first of all, podcasting, because it's audio only, and that's what I'm about to kind of drive home. Podcasting is audio only. It relies 100% on your voice. That's what it all comes down to in that particular medium. So I feel like if you can turn on a mic, if you can start recording on your phone, and you can talk for a half hour or an hour about video games, about comic books, about basket weaving, like whatever your thing is. It doesn't even have to be nerd culture or geek culture. You can do a fictional podcast like Serial. Like, you can set up a murder mystery and have each of the different interviews scripted, and you can go as creative as you want to. There's no tried and true formula, because something like Serial is as big as it is. And then on the flip side of that, you've got Movie Fights by Screen Junkies that's as big as it is, and they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum. So if you can talk for a half an hour to an hour straight about whatever that thing is that you love, you're well on your way to finding your voice. I don't know if this will help clarify to the listeners, but when I started out, I watched so much John Campea that I almost feel like I was modulating what John Campea was doing. And that's why it's important to have lots of different influences. If you're watching one podcast every single week or listening to one podcast every single week, then there is a chance, and you run the risk of coming off sounding like the person that you're the most influenced by, whether it's Kevin Smith, whether it's Game Over Greggy, or whoever it is. So I think that starting out with podcasts is a great way to kind of figure out who you are and what you want to bring to the table. Because once you do put that video camera on you, there's this whole new element added to it, and now it's not your voice. Now it's your voice. Now it's your body language. Now it's the way you carry yourself. It's your hygiene. It's you want to set up in a clean space when you do it, because people don't want to see your dirty laundry in the background, So it's like, it depends on how far you want to go with production, but I do think starting out with audio only and then working into video is the way that I would do it.
Most definitely. I think a lot of people have done that as well. Some people jump straight into video. It depends on what you want to do. It depends on what you're doing. like I said, guys, everything here, even though we're a fandoms page and we talk about different things, when it comes to comic books and superheroes and anime, this one-on-one series is going to touch on a lot of different levels. And it's going to touch on some things that are not necessarily connected, like Jeremy said, to nerd culture. But, Jeremy, we really do appreciate all of the input. Is there any one thing that you want to leave to the listeners?
Hopefully the one thing that everybody will take away from this is that you have your own journey, and don't be afraid to just jump in. The first thing you do might suck, probably going to suck, but if you're not afraid to fail a couple of times, maybe a lot of times, you can succeed. You will succeed. The thing that happens the most is people burn out. People, they want it, they're thirsty, they do everything they can to achieve it, and then something comes up and they quit. And the person who quits can never win. So that's just my advice to everybody. And I appreciate you talking to me, Malcolm. It's always a pleasure. You guys make sure to check out the Fandom Talk podcast. We get into all sorts of cool, like comic book, movie-related stuff. So check that out. Check out Be Terrible Movies on YouTube if you want to see some of the content that I'm doing over there. Jeremy Be Terrible on Twitter, and that's it.
And guys, you know who we are. We are Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMS Come to the Facebook group. Join the discussion. Come to the Facebook page. Don't forget to like the page. Check out the daily updates. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It's at Fandoms_Anonymous17. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Anonymous_Fan17. Well, guys, if there isn't anything else, thank you for listening, and have a good day.